Hey, what about the ready state? One of the things we're trying to get people to understand is, hey, here's what the body's supposed to be able to do. This is normative physiologic range. So if I put my arm straight up with armpit forward, thumbs back, I should have this nice straight line on both sides. Well, it turns out I should easily be able to grab a kettlebell in this position. So if you're doing an American swing, one of the things that we want you to identify is, hey, if you can't achieve this good position, which is full range of motion, we know you'll get there and you'll solve it like an old man kettlebell swing where you're licking yourself like some kind of cat preening itself. What I want you to do is identify these signatures of compensation. So if I'm doing an American swing, going overhead to the side, I break position to solve this problem. Once again, we have another compensation happening. But when you start to see the elbow bend into this overhead position to achieve a standardized range of motion that we think you should be able to have and safely, this isn't about safety, it's about efficacy. I want you to identify, hey, here we have an athlete whose overhead range of motion is incomplete. And what's nice about the kettlebell is that it allows us to be in this position even, so not even thumbs backwards, we are actually giving you more mid-range, so you should be able to put your arm over your head in this position with the elbow straight. So if you're struggling for that, because the kettlebell blocks that position into this overhead shape, then identify, hey, we have an incomplete overhead position. Now, the issue with signatures of compensation, being able to identify when an athlete either needs to be cued, straighten your elbows out, squeeze your butt at the top, so that would be a good overhead shape. But more importantly, if I can't cue my athlete into that shape, then it might be that they're missing this range of motion. And the reason this matters is that as the kettlebell comes down into this position, what I'm really looking at is being able to have some lats on so that I'm stable and now have the lats engaged through the loading process so that I stay connected through the shoulder with this long lever position. And this is why a lot of people love this short lever shape, right? When the Russian kettlebell, that's this little tight position because we can create so much torsion. Now I get the lat on, and in the bottom position, I see a much more stable back. We're always cueing, trying to get the lats on when we pull. And one of the things that happens is that when we go overhead all the way with signatures of compensation, as that kettlebell comes down, my athletes are now arriving in a position without a shoulder that's very well connected to the back. So instead of that swing that looks connected the whole time, what ends up happening is I end up here and I get this horrible impulse. And you can see suddenly that I get this weird loading. Now the goal of the kettlebell swing is theoretically to see how much impulse I can put into the ground. So that means I'm trying to wind myself up into a position as I enter that tunnel for compression so that I can be stable and generate the most force. I know you can generate force, but can you generate the most force? So one of the reasons people prefer this Russian swing is not even that you're doing more work or less work, let's not have that conversation, but it's easier for most people to have enough lat on and enough rotation, break the bell, the same way we break the bar, so that when I hit compression, I'm in a position to put the maximum impulse into the ground. And one of the reasons we see the kettlebell as a great learning tool is it allows us to teach athletes to absorb force and return that force with impulse into the ground very quickly. So if we were gonna measure who has the best kettlebell swing, the athlete that can stomp the ground as hard as they can at that impulse load moment, right? Boom, that's my goal, to be able to load and turn that around very quickly. Of course, we can bring foot pressure in, et cetera, et cetera. But as the elbows are here and I swing down, once again, I have an arm load system that isn't well connected to the body, can't make corrections, can't adjust for position, and I end up seeing the tail wagging the dog, but from the other side. So identify these signatures of compensation, start to hunt them down, because it's gonna make this technique idea a lot more difficult. Why do people like battle ropes? It allows us to learn how to stay connected through range. Instead of going from tension to no tension to shock impulse in a less than advantageous position. Practice doesn't make perfect, practice makes permanent.